Hi, lovely people. We are here again at Guru for our edition of Guru Talks podcast, World Meets in Bali. My name is Zana, and with me I have Francisco.
Hello, Mrs. Anna. How are you today?
Very good, and you?
Good. I'm fantastic. Having you side by me is like an honor.
Such a pleasure.
We have this amazing guest.
Yes. So
the reason we are here today.
So today it's a very special day, as they all are. But I'm very happy, and we are very happy to have Soma Temple with us. It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for Soma for accepting the challenge of being there on the hot chair.
Yeah, it's not my cup of tea, but I went for it.
Thank you.
Well, we are between friends, and we are really between friends. You cannot see, but we have many beautiful faces. Everybody, let's cheer.
We have less than 30 because it's the law.
Yeah, well, we are entering again that time. So, for the ones that are watching us on there, let me explain you who Soma is. So Soma is a beautiful woman. She's a spiritual woman, and she's been a protector of Bali most sacred Hindu religions, traditions, right?
Culture,
Culture, traditions, yeah, because things go side by side. So let's start with the first question. And before Bali, we need to jump to Michigan, because that's where you were born, right, Soma?
Yes.
So can you tell us how was it to grow up in the Michigan, in the States? How was the environment there back then?
Wow. I always felt from the minute I was aware of that I was kind of a being, that I felt like, who am I doing in this place? Like, I couldn't really relate. There was always a bit of I was in a very loving family. I grew up in a born-again Christian family. Very strict, very religious. But I was always a bit like, that doesn't really fit for me. And so, yeah, it was a beautiful, easy childhood growing up, but I always had this idea that I was born in the wrong place. Like, I didn't really belong there.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Somehow it just,
And how was your relation with your father and mother? Because, you know, it goes to the subconscious mind of what you are today. Something was there that still triggers you today. What do you remember that is really beautiful and nurturing, and that you can pass on to your sons and grandsons and everything?
For me, it was their extreme belief and faith and trust in God.
Beautiful.
And that I gained at a very young age. I just didn't really like the dogma,
Yeah.
but I really understood the trust and faith in God, and that has carried me through my whole life.
So that's the positive and beautiful side.
Absolutely.
So I have a question for you. So I just, was aware of this abnormal psychology kind of studies, and I study body center psychotherapy from William Reich, but this is different, and you studied this in the University of Michigan. So my question is, what you learned those days, do you apply still today? It was useful for your life further on, or was just a curiosity of understanding human beings?
Well, first of all, I wasn't at the University of Michigan.
Okay.
I was at Spring Arbor University in Michigan.
In Michigan, okay,
Just to make
correct.
sure we get the
With
story
accuracy.
correct
All the
and
Michigan
the
viewers
facts.
out there.
Yeah.
But the reason I started with psychology and philosophy. Philosophy really touched my heart. Psychology, because I grew up with, my mother was mentally ill, and she had bipolar from the time I was very young. So I watched this, and I was very curious what happens to people and why they are sometimes go off the charts. And so I went into abnormal psychology, which is the study of mental illnesses, basically. And then I studied child psychology and abnormal child psychology, just because I grew up in a family that had that in their family, and so I wanted to understand and made a very strong commitment at a young age that I was not going to be crazy. But I'm very crazy on one level, but
it's a healthy kind of craze. But it's interesting that you
Yeah.
wanted to go deep and understand the root cause of in your family, so you also could avoid it, right?
Yeah.
Or at least understand the science
exactly.
behind it.
Yeah, and see the basis of it. Like, why did this happen? How did this come about that someone cracks and someone goes off the deep end? Like, what is it that he always was curious about the human mind?
Did you, with these studies, to be quick on this, you really understood and you got more insight? It was helpful to understand your mother afterwards, or the approach they have was not the good one?
And I actually switched at a certain point, and what this is just, they just give them drugs, they give them lithium, they give them this, they give them different things to quiet them, to make them calm. They don't really fix the problem, and so for me that was very clear from the beginning.
They numb the problem.
Exactly. And I found philosophy much more useful in carrying it through life. And it was interesting because the very first class of philosophy class, I wasn't actually supposed to be in it. I was a freshman.
Okay.
And they weren't allowed, but I went anyway. And the very first day, what the man said is, if your beliefs, you're not willing to challenge them, they're not worth having.
Wow.
That was the...
And that,
That's
just like,
dialectic,
boom.
yeah?
I went, wow, okay. So, and that I've carried with me all my life. It's something I always check. Like, I have strong beliefs, but I always check and challenge
you
them.
have no blind faith. You try to understand the logic out of it, yeah? Somehow.
Well, I also will challenge it. Not necessarily understand it, but challenge it. Like, look at the other side and see. And so that was something that really stuck with me to this day, yeah.
And that's a very powerful statement. That actually is interesting, because the next question that I'm going to ask you, it's all about going against the system. So you grew up in a country, in a social environment that was completely outstanding, and still today everybody talks about it, with the hippie movement. So I would like to know, how was it? I know you embraced it at some level, and how much you were involved in that movement.
Yeah.
What did you took it from it?
From there. And you have it still today in your heart, because something
Of
is
course, yeah. I'm once a hippie, always a hippie, I think. You know, it's like, I just saw through the fallacy of like the American dream and all of this. I just went, this is not correct. This is not how I want to live my life. And so I started by just living in a teepee. And I was living off the land and trying to be self-sufficient. Even then, we were growing food.
This is when?
This is in
70s?
in the 70s.
Yeah.
And always living a little bit off the grid. And, you know, I didn't want to work with banks. I didn't want to,
Wow.
I mean, I didn't have a bank account until I was almost 50.
Wow.
Yeah.
People are trying to do the same again now, yeah? It's very interesting.
Yeah, I know. We're going back to it, you know, which is really funny.
Yes, yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I had my first child was in a teepee. We
Wow.
were pretty much self-sufficient, and I understood the authenticity of that. And the simpleness of living a simple, wholesome life, of just being and to growing food and being kind to other people, being at one with nature and with, so that's kind of, I embraced it totally. And
That was the also kind of the spirit, a little bit sometimes naive, because then when we got into the world, things start to change, right? But that's the spirit of the hippie movement.
yeah.
Yeah. I have, so this brings me to,
It's a nice
I
question.
mean, I was born in 65. My father was not a hippie, but he was against the system. Those days we had fascism in Portugal. So I was raised like, my name is free, free man. Francisco means, it's from the French, means free man. And being free, not in the sense of being stupid, being aware and responsible, but not being closing the borders of the establishment. And then I have this amazing Buddhist teacher, and we study a lot of crazy wisdom of Trungpa, yeah? And he was the guy who brought Buddhism to America in the 60s, 70s. And you were living that moment there, and I was seeing all the videos. And it was a very experimental kind of moment, art and poets, and it was very, very alive, very organic. And my question goes to this amazing dream Timothy Leary, LSD experiments, people coming from university and do psychology and trying to expand the consciousness, understand reality, opening doors of consciousness, trying to see further more than what the establishment gives you as the life. What is your perception today, looking back, about what Trungpa coined as spiritual materialism, which is because people go in search of something that it's missing in their life and they make business out of it. Not, you can do business, but it's like it's somehow not real anymore. And because you have been there and you have doing all your life with a very certain angle, I want to have your opinion because better than you, it's difficult.
Thank you. It's a very interesting question, and I've thought about it a lot, actually, because I believe in abundance.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yes,
I think
of
it's
course.
fantastic.
We embrace reality.
But I think to charge for your spiritual experience or wisdom is really tricky. And I've seen very, very few people being able to pull it off with full integrity. And often I think what happens with it is, like, as someone becomes quite well known and popular, and more people gather around him, and the community or whatever they've gathered is become so big that the actual person starting it, like the guru, for example, loses touch with what's really happening on the ground, and a lot of deception, a lot of corruption, a lot of different things happen, and those things, when actually probably the teacher in the beginning was actually pure and innocent.
Yeah, yeah,
And
good intention.
they had
there
good
was nothing
intentions,
there.
but it's just all the people around them sometimes that create this, and then their ideas and their concepts, and they have to run the place, and it gets really tricky and muddy. And I'm
yeah, I know.
yeah.
That's why I asked
yeah, it's like, wow, I've seen some pretty muddy situations. But
that we wouldn't expect in such a
Exactly.
field
Yeah.
related to spirituality,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, it's a bit shocking, and I think it actually affects a lot of people. You know, that it turns them off
Yeah.
when it's, you know, that's all involved. And so I think sometimes it's better to just ask for donations or nothing at all, and maybe you get donors.
Yeah.
And then you have that problem, because then the people who donate, they want you to go in that direction, but actually you're heading in this direction. And I think it's a really, really
It's very tricky.
tightrope to walk.
Yeah.
When money enters, problems start, right?
Exactly.
So,
So I
let's-
was just saying about your kids,
Yeah.
and I can go through
yeah,
that.
Well, I was catching up also
Yes.
on that, because at some point you decided to leave the States with
Yeah.
your kids.
Yeah.
The kids that you had in a teepee. That's super cool. So
By
you-
firelight.
We are amazing.
You know, thunder and rainstorm.
Wow,
I mean, yeah, it
that's
was quite
beautiful. That's beautiful. That's quite an
quite
experience.
dramatic.
I
And
can-
2 miles from where we parked the car.
So it means if there was a problem, you needed to survive the way you were. That
Well, I didn't realize, but the neighbor had brought a 4-wheel drive car closer
Just
to
in
us,
case.
just in case, which I didn't know. But I thought the car was 2 miles away, and I just thought,
You
at
feel
that
that
time
you-
there's 6 billion people
Yeah.
on the world.
you
It's a
feel that
natural
your
thing.
kids today have a special ability just because they were born near a bonfire in the teepee?
No.
That's not their.
Not
It's a
really.
question to ask. Yeah.
I think being born naturally gives them a huge benefit.
Yeah.
Yes. of
Because
course.
I also studied midwifery back in the States before I came to Bali.
Okay.
And when I first came here, I also worked often with midwives and helping deliver children. And before I left the States, because I really believe that a natural way of bringing a child into the world is the best gift you can give them, if possible. Yeah.
Less trauma, also, because
Exactly.
it's a traumatic experience,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so you left the States with your kids and you start traveling to the Southeast Asia,
Yeah.
and you discover Bali. And from what I read, it was kind of love at first sight.
Absolutely.
Why?
Why? Well, I saw, because I was raised in a born-again Christian environment, they had missionaries coming to the church and showing slideshows and things. And I saw a slideshow of when I was 6 years old of Bali and the rice fields. And I remember saying to my parents,
Well, amazing.
when I
How old
get
you were?
6.
Oh,
When I get older,
I go there.
I'm going to live there. And I used to tell them that all the time. Remember those pictures? I'm going to live there one day.
and he did it.
And I did. And so what happened for me was my children, we were living very alternative, off the grid, and they're school age. And all of a sudden it was like, ugh, I gotta buy the American dream. I gotta have a car, two-car garage, and the washing and dryer, and the whole thing, which living in a teepee didn't really exist. So I was like, I don't know what to do. Let's go to Asia travel through Asia before we have to like settle down and do this whole thing, you know?
And we
So
try it the other way, and then we'll see it. Yeah, maybe.
I didn't intend to live here. I just can't, at that
To
point,
experiment.
I just came to give us an opportunity for them and for us to experience something different before I bought all of that and joined the system, because I hadn't really joined the system. And when I started in Thailand and went overland all through Thailand, northern Thailand, all through Malaysia, Singapore,
So you have
etc.,
been Chiang Mai, you went Wat Kopangan and all that.
all
yeah.
of that, yeah. And then ended up in Bali, flew from Singapore to Bali, and when I arrived, I stepped off the plane, and for me, it was home.
38 years ago.
Yes. And I knew it immediately. It was like, oh, there was
It's like you have
something-
been
there was
here
something-
before, yeah.
That's
That
what I
must
felt.
be because
It's very clear.
those times the culture was very intact, right?
Yeah.
So people
How
just
was it those days?
Paradise.
fared-
Absolute paradise. We didn't have any imported food. We didn't even have bread. Well, there was some bread in the supermarket, but it was so sweet that you didn't want to eat it, and very white.
They really
So-
like sugar.
Exactly. So you learn to eat, rice and vegetables and
The
tempeh
nasi goreng and
like-
mee goreng.
Exactly. So, yeah.
Yeah, that should be a quite interesting experience to go through.
So being with a family.
Yeah.
This is, I'm going to the script that this lady organized very
Working
properly.
all night.
So you're skipping all over the place.
No.
That's okay. Good.
You stick
I
to
go
the plan.
through-
Like to
Stick
be
to the plan.
I read, but then I interpret the
No,
question.
it's actually what we are
And I
talking
never
about.
read the script before coming to the interview. I just do it natural flow. But I understand what is the meaning of the question. So you were in this sense arriving here with your kids. It's not the same arriving alone. So this is like a pioneer experiment. You have a responsibility. How old they were?
They were for 3 and 5.
Yeah, so there is a sense of responsibility. Okay, I'm going to stay around when I have kids. So to raise them and then school them, which is the question we are going to ask, how was it? Because you had this sense of motherhood and responsibility to give them a structure, yeah?
Well, having my own mother being a school teacher, I knew I had to educate my kids. And I started by trying to homeschool them. And I was like, oh God, this is not for me. I can't do this. So then I put my oldest one into a Balinese school. And I saw at that point they were just like writing. Like they had to rewrite a repetition over and over and over and over and over. And I was like, no, this
Not
is not
really
going to work
education.
either.
They're
No.
going back again.
Yes. So we started actually. I started with a person from Ubud, Amir, and his 2 children, and Linda Garland, who is quite the icon of Bali. She's not with us anymore. Her 2 children, and John Hardy and his wife Penny at the time, and his daughter Elora, who's now from the Green School,
Yeah.
and
Wow. That's interesting.
Ibu Kuku, what's it called? Anyway, her Elora's company, the bamboo company. And we started with 5 kids. 2 were mine, 2 were Amir's and Linda's, and Elora Hardy. And we brought a teacher in from Australia, and we started teaching them in that way, and it was amazing because we went to Basaki, which is the mother temple of Bali. We did many things with them, teaching them Balinese dance, but also the basics, math and this and that. But then slowly we realized that we needed a more proper school, that they were having a lot of fun, doing a lot of theater and a lot of everything, but we needed a proper
They
school.
were doing interacting and doing what we call in Greece
But they needed-
peripatetic kind of teaching, like you walk the talk.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
just staying in the room and
Yeah.
having information. So
So, and you were pioneer, setting with this group of people the first international school in Bali for kids.
So then with that group, we started the Bali International School, which is now the Bali Island School.
It still exists.
It still exists. It's the largest international school in Bali. And it has swimming pools and basketball courts and soccer fields. We started with 6 children.
Well, now
2 of them were mine. Now there's, I don't know, I don't know now with the pandemic how many kids there
yeah,
are.
but before
But there was
COVID,
350, 400 kids there.
Wow.
And so we started with the American consulate, and it just kept growing. And many of the people's kids here have gone.
They have been there.
Yeah.
And do you think you did a difference with that school? I mean, regarding pedagogics and the way to teach kids differently that would be in Europe or in Western world?
In the very beginning, yes, because we had one teacher. It was a husband and wife, and they were very hands-on, and they were very much teaching in a different way. Now it's very straightforward, like any other school. I would.
There's a program that you need to follow. Before
It's
it was
international
a little
baccalaureate now,
Oh,
and it has
they
a
have,
huge,
they have rules.
very,
You
very,
need
yeah.
to tick the boxes.
yeah, exactly.
So, in 1992, you went to India
Yeah.
with a purpose to
Mother
meet
India.
Papaji.
Yeah.
And reading also your diaries, I realized that was a very strong connection the first moment you saw him, with you towards him, and also the opposite, because he did tell you some things that was kind of a glimpse, predictions of the future that were very important to you. So can you explain us those very interesting events in your life that time?
Well, I was one who was alternative, but I didn't want a guru. I was kind of anti-guru,
It suits you very well.
which was really funny. But I was getting a craniosacral massage, and at one point, the only way I can
Wow.
describe it was every cell in my body woke up. And it was like I was being told all this information and downloaded things. And the man said, "Oh, this is who you really are." And then kept on massaging me, and that was the only thing he said in a 2-hour treatment. So at the end of it, I said to him, "Excuse me, but what the heck was that?" That was just over the top. And he said, "Well, I've just been with this man in India named Papaji, and I recognized you were seeing your true self in this moment."
Did you heard about him before?
I had heard about him, but it didn't really, nothing had sparked my interest. And a lot of people from Osho were going there.
Yeah, the sannyasi
And I was
people,
like,
yeah.
meh, their guru died, so they're looking for another one. And I just didn't,
The guru
Sorry.
trip going on.
But I didn't really, it was just, it
You
was
didn't
kind of
feel
like,
the need to do that, yeah?
no, I just didn't felt like that wasn't necessary. But that moment I was like, no, I want to
Okay,
know
now
what
I-
this is about. This really piqued my interest.
Of course.
So I went off to India, and it was love at first sight. The minute he walked in, I knew my life was never going to be the same.
Felt
And I didn't know anybody there. I had never been to India. I was a bit like, ugh, where am I? And I just had an awakening experience where I went back to the best hotel in the town at the time because I wanted to be safe. I was like, oh, I'm in this really scary place, I mean, that's what I felt the night
Yeah,
before. And
India
then,
can be pretty scary.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially-
that's a reaction arriving
Of course,
in India.
that's
a woman
normal,
by
that's
yourself
normal.
arriving at night in a big city. And so I went home, and that night went back to the hotel, and I just started laughing and crying, and it didn't stop for 24 hours.
Wow. Was it
The
kind
real
of
voice,
emotional?
it was emotional. It was like shedding all kinds of things and awakening to many things, and just I thought everything was so funny at one point. Like, what a joke all of this is.
Am I crazy or
Yeah,
what?
then I thought I'm crazy, and then I cried, and then the room boys at the hotel actually kept checking on me because they were concerned, and they're like, "Wow, your guru's really powerful."
But actually he is.
Yeah.
And he actually is.
It's a good one.
Wow. And he did also. That's the question that also Francisco is going to ask you. But the connection
I
is.
was going still to the craniosacral.
Oh, okay.
And that's why I was not going to the question because it's important. There's some core somatic reaction you have there, and So that guy should be like overbooked because after that experience, if you tell everybody, I want to go to this guy and have this experience, because this actually can happen. And it happened in that sense. Do you today, looking back, before I go to the next question, you see Papaji as something that it was meant to be?
Oh, 100%.
100%. There is no doubt.
Yeah.
It's too much
Sadhguru
evidence.
Dev.
And you are not like a believer with blind faith. You are a person, as you said, you question things. Yeah, you don't follow blind faith. Yeah.
You are even a little bit suspicious, so I can understand. Kind
So I have a name here regarding your work, which is with the malas. It's Rudraksha.
Rudraksha. Rudraksha. No, I can't even say it.
Come on.
Aum Rudraksha. Aum Rudraksha.
I'm sorry, I don't know how to say it. I'm a little bit ignorant, but
That's okay.
mala I know what it means.
Okay, mala.
I don't know even why they are 108, which
Yeah.
is 12 planets, 9 planets, 12 months, which is usually the reason. But
There's actually a million reasons
there is
why
many,
they're
but this is
108.
one of
Yes.
there is one of
Yeah.
them. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So, but the idea is, you start to do it. Yeah, this was a very, I would say, there was the business part because you were doing money out of it, but there was some very spiritual inner feeling doing that, and you were working with Simax, precious stones, and everything. Can you speak about that and that experience? Because that's what your line of work in those days.
Yeah. Well, actually, it goes back to Papaji again.
Okay.
Because one day he sent everyone and was looking for me. He said, go find Soma, go find Soma. And I wasn't there that often. I would come a few times a year because I had kids and life and things. And someone was they were looking for me. He's looking for you, Papaji's looking for you. And I'm like, that's strange. And I come into the room and he said, I've been looking everywhere for you. You never come and see me. And I was like, wow, I come every night for dinner. So I was surprised, but I didn't say anything. He said, come. And he took me in his room and he started talking to me about my life. And he told me many, many things about my life, about my children. And he said, one of the things he said to me was, it's your dharma in
Your
this
practice,
life
yeah.
to make Rudraksha malas and spread them to the West. He said they've been kept in India for many, many years. And it's your job, it's your duty to spread them to the West, because the world is in chaos and everybody in the world needs to be wearing Rudraksha beads, because if everyone was wearing Rudraksha beads, the world would be at peace. And he said, this is what I want you to do.
Okay.
So I looked at these and I realized I had been wearing them since I was 18 years old.
So it was a normal.
No, because I didn't really know what they were. I was attracted to them at a young age, and I would take that particular mala apart and mix it with stones and gemstones and make, I still have it, funny enough. So when he said this, I'm like, these hippie beads, like the sadhus in India, like I have 3 kids, how am I supposed to make a living with this? So I started as, I just trusted blind faith again,
What he
in a
told you,
way. I started it as a hobby. And I never intended to start a brand, but I did intend to start a movement, the Mala movement, which I think I was the pioneer of the Mala movement in the West, and now their Malas are everywhere.
Everywhere.
Which is fantastic, because I can't provide them for the whole world.
Also, you used to, part of the profits also go for charity, right? From the
30% of our profit goes to charity, and a big part of that was also, we give a lot back to the farmers that grow the Rudrakshas, and it was really, and all of our employees also are part of the profit sharing.
So it was an exponential growth kind of movement.
Yeah, it
since
started
you were
as a hobby.
interconnected.
I just started doing it, and then slowly it grew, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit
So
more.
you started this in what year?
In
more or less?
1994.
Okay, yeah. Now malas are all over the place.
Yes.
yeah, Mamas,
yeah.
but there's a story behind, and you are part of the.
It's interesting.
And at the
Of the
same
movement.
time, which I think might lead into your next question, but do you want to
Yeah,
ask the
yeah.
question?
No.
I was going,
Go on. No. Because Papaji told you a lot of things.
yes, that particular day he told me many, many things. And another one was, he said, one day you're going to take very important people from Bali
Here.
to India.
Connection between Hinduism, between island to
He didn't
to
really,
Bali. There was not a plan, yeah. of
No, he
course.
just, and I remember when he said that, he goes, be ready. You will recognize the moment.
And that's actually so the question. How something like this happened? Because you are during many years were bringing Bali high priests on sacred pilgrimage to India. This is a lot of logistics. How did you manage to do it? And
Grace. Only grace.
how happened? What happened? You went to them. They went to you. How was the
How did it
situation?
happen? So, after Papaji left the body, his guru was Ramana Maharshi, and he lived in a place in Arunachala in Tamil Nadu in India.
Okay. In the south.
In the south. So after Papaji left the body, I went to Arunachala. And there's, in the Ramana ashram, there's a samadhi. And Ramana's body is actually buried in the samadhi hall. And I was walking around that, and all of a sudden I had a vision so clear, I thought it was actually a person of a Balinese high priest walking around the samadhi. And I was like, oh wow, this is a Balinese high priest. And I heard Papaji's voice, this is who you're going to bring to India. And I looked, and the guy was gone.
So it was a
It was a vision, but in the beginning, I didn't think it was a vision.
wasn't
It was
real.
that real. I was like,
You could smell it.
yeah. And so that went in, and that was in 1997,
Okay.
or maybe the beginning of January '98, maybe.
25 years ago.
So many years went by, I did the Rudrakshas, this and that, and one day someone said to me, there's this Balinese high priest that's doing this Taksu meditation, which is a Shiva meditation. Would you like to come and join? It's a 12-week course, and it's in Indonesian. And I said, well, I speak Indonesian, but no, I'm not going to do the 12-week course. But I'd like to meet the man. I'd kind of forgotten about this whole experience. And because almost 10 years have gone by since this event happened. And so I go to this ashram, and when he walked in, I was like,
Is the guy? That's the guy I saw.
at Ramana ashram. And so from that moment, I went and met him. And then I brought him a book of Ramana Maharshi and Arunachala. And he had tears when he saw the book coming down his face. And he asked me, where is this place? I said, we've lost touch of where it is. And he said, I come from this place. He said, that's why my name is Boom, which means the mountain. And he said, can we go there? And we said, yeah, sure. So that's how the whole thing started. And so then we had an invitation to go to Arunachala. And actually, Anna was on that very first trip. And so it was Milo and a few of us.
Milo.
Was
Again,
also
Milo.
Milo and Made and Anna. And we were on that very first trip to India with him. And we stayed there. And from there, went to the next one. Was, and we just kept going. We went to...
It's like a puzzle that finally makes sense. Yeah?
So the logistics?
It's crazy, yeah?
Well,
An high priest is not a joke, yeah?
well, the Pradhanas is very specific because they can never eat out of anything anyone else has ever eaten off of, like a plate
Yeah.
or a fork, spoon. Everything has to be just for them. Their glasses, anything they drink, it's either you have to throw it away or it's any bed sheets, anything like that has to be only
For them.
from them. So yeah, we used to travel with, I had a roll-on suitcase with all the plastic, like bamboo cups and all these different things that we would take with us to start the journey. And then often when we would get there to different places, depending on the situation, and sheets, and then we would get them to take them off the bed, so we had to go buy new sheets and then wash them and try to dry them before we went to bed. I mean, there were some crazy moments.
And they were not even like worried about this because you were behind trying to make it happen. So how they, because India is the mother, yeah? You agree with that? Yeah. So I arrived in India the first time, I went to Osho. And it's like crazy when you go out of the plane and you have this sense of smell of rotten spices, you know what I mean? And you say, what the fuck am I? This is crazy. But then or you love it or you wait it. And I miss it. I need to go back. And I went many times. How you felt that being Balinese high priests who are practicing Shiva and Vishnu, yeah? Vishnu and Buddha. They have three kinds of practices. I was trying to understand.
Well, the Trinity is
The Trinity.
Vishnu
Shiva
and Brahma.
Brahma, okay. Okay. So how you felt them being there and the connection with the priests there?
They get along?
It was magical or just normal and free flow?
For them it was, I think for all of
Natural.
us, it was natural and magical. In the south of India, it's very much like Bali in many ways,
Yeah.
and so they felt at home there. They
Okay.
felt very comfortable in Arunachala, and that in the religion too of Bali came from that area
Okay.
originally. So from the south of India, came from Tamil Nadu. So that's
So
what
it's a natural.
It's a natural thing. They were a bit shocked by certain things,
Okay.
but in the south it's much more soft. And we were staying in an ashram, so that also helps. We're protected a little bit.
Yes.
In the north, they very much they feel the power of the place, you know. And one of the things the high priest here that we've been talking about is Pranamada Kunu.
Mhm.
He used to say to us before we leave, we'd have a meeting, and he would say, leave all your concepts and beliefs here in Bali, and go with an open mind and an open heart. And take from there what you feel is appropriate to bring back to Bali. And when you come back, pick up all whatever your beliefs that they're still there. But don't take our beliefs and our judgments and our way of being there and look at it from that perspective. Just go with an open mind.
Leave
Like
your
say-
baggage behind.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's very wise.
And just see what triggers you, what affects you, what makes you,
That's beautiful.
yeah.
So I'm going to ask you one question related. You have a movie night tonight, which is Dharma, and even the podcast, the title you choose is Dharma.
I didn't know this was too difficult.
Well, whatever. You choose Dharma, and then I was thinking about spirituality is about the sense of awareness. Yeah, even if you see the etymological origin of the word, it's about going in. It's not about flying out. Yeah. So it's about awareness. So there is Dharma and Karma. Yeah? So the law of cause effect. How you perceive the law of cause effect after all you've done these years? Because you understand the reality of being aware when you say something, when you sing something, when you do something. All of your life is based on awareness. You will not do this without being sure. How you feel this law of cause effect? Say it in a very easy way for the rest of the world to understand.
It's not an easy question to make it simple.
Well,
But I do believe that everything that you put out, it has some effect on the world. And so, for me, I really feel, and that's why I think I listed the title as Dharma, because one of the messages I got when I was in Thailand that came so strong to me was the way to completely finish your karma is to surrender totally to the Dharma and to that which is your duty, that is your role to play in this body and this time on earth. And that there's certain karmas that I think have to be fulfilled, but once that you are kind of aware of that, they can be lessened, not as tough. Maybe through the grace of the Guru or just grace. It doesn't have to be Guru's grace, it's just grace. It lessens karma, and there's a certain topic karma which I believe it just has to happen. It's karma that you come in with, and you have to.
you need to go through it.
You need to go through it. There's other ones that I think you can change through how you change your lifestyle, you change your way of being, that you can have an effect on that. But I think in general, yeah, you just, everything you do has some effect, you know. And so for me, one of my axioms is not to create more karma in my life. I want to finish it. I want to be free.
I love your answer, but beautiful.
You know, I had a question here on the script about capitalism and blah blah blah, but actually it's not what I'm going to ask. It's not what I want to ask right now.
You know about the
This is
question.
leading me to another question because I was listening to you just now and intrigued and surprised and even a little bit, you know, feeling not jealous, but thinking for a person that's at such a young age, start understanding and having the signs and the certainty of what you wanted to do and direct your life, and having these visions and voices guiding you to a certain path. I mean, I'm not saying it's, of course it's not easy, but there's, you know, there's a structure that leads you and you fully believe in this structure and actually materialize into what is your life now. For us common mortals that have no clue.
I'm also a common mortal, trust me.
Are you?
Absolutely.
Let me touch. Oh, it's a person.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For me personally, that I don't, or maybe I have, but I don't listen that often. How can we navigate through this section of chaos and events and try to find ourselves in this life? Because people like you and I've learned not many, but a few, and I always like this. Wow, I wish I had this type of, you know, insight. Is it? Why? There's hope for me. A lot.
There's hope for everybody.
Thank you.
I think it's just something that you're drawn to. You
Yeah.
know, and follow your heart. I mean, that's always been my axiom. Because even with my children, the one thing I said is, I believe like this, and I think it's like this, this, and this. But if it doesn't ring true to you, don't buy it. And really finding out who you are, and finding out what makes your heart sing, what makes you happy, and just follow that. And it's each person is different. Its path is different. Each person's dharma is different. We come in with different gifts. We come in with different things. Like I could never do what you're doing and lead a podcast. I would be so nervous, and so I couldn't do it.
I have vodka on my podcast.
I don't believe you. And so I think it's really just believing in yourself and your own beauty, because everyone has it, and everyone has that spark of God inside of them. If you want to call it God, but, and just nurture that. And whatever way it takes you, and not to look at another person and go, oh, but I'm not like them, you know. If they were all the same, it would be
It would be very boring.
That's true.
And so we all have our different little parts to bring to the whole picture. You know?
We are interdependent. Yeah, we need each other.
You're absolutely beautiful.
I'm going to ask you a small question, which brings you to the happiness and the joy in the heart, which is, and you spoke with me there, and Anita was here, about, I have a big family, kids, they're all over the place, the grandsons. This is amazing magic, man. It's tough, I know. I heard the story you told me the other day about whatever, and oh my God, in the swimming pool and this, but the overall result is almost a chaotic magic feeling of joy. How you could relate with your motherhood, grandmotherhood, and relate with young kids, because you did it with the school and you go on now doing it with your grandson.
I just kind of wing it. I really didn't know a lot. I was
Just natural.
Just natural, and just take care of them, love them. I think the most important thing is to just love them. No matter what they do, no matter who they are, you know, love them. Even when I find, like especially in this time period, there's moments where they, as they get older, they obviously do things that you don't really like or agree with. But what I try to focus on is the love that they've brought to me and have invoked in me, rather than what they're doing in their lives. And just rest there in that love that they've brought to me. And I would never have been able to love to that level without having children. And even if they do things that I don't agree with,
This is unconditional love.
It's unconditional. I just feel, I try to bring it back whenever I get angry with a choice they made, to bring it back like I'm so lucky that I can feel this much love that I actually get upset at them that they're doing the wrong thing, or according to me, you know, or something different. And it's just really honoring that love that they have imbued in you because of just what your children will come through you somehow.
Yeah.
And they are kind of also an extension of yourself. They have their own personality, as you mentioned.
No, they are human beings that they come through you, but they become a unique, independent, and you see them. I say this because I have a kid, so it's like, it's not my kid anymore, it's him. You know?
It's found in the world.
It's really beautiful. And you just give them as much joy as you can and love. I think that's the main thing. Just love them. Just love them. You know, I say to my granddaughter, just pure love. You're just pure love. I don't tell her I love her. I just tell her you're pure love.
She's love.
You are love itself. That's what I tell her all the
Gets
time.
in her bones,
Exactly. That she just feels that I am love. I am love itself. And
Oh man, I'm going to go love, man. Love! We are almost finishing. This is the last question.
I have one.
So we go to the power of
we have
love.
One last question for you. And so Soma was kind enough to share with us some thoughts. We normally ask a bio to our invited guests, but Soma went a little bit further. This is very good to understand you and share some thoughts, some diaries, some everything together. And at the very last end, you mentioned that there is a need to wake up, and you even put it in capital letters, yeah? Wake up. And that struck me, as I already mentioned, I'm very also intrigued, and I'm very curious about things, right? So what is this wake up, and how can humankind really wake up? What is missing? What is the element that is missing in us?
I think by looking outside of yourself, you stay asleep. Look inside, find out who you are. And in that, if you really find out who you are in your heart, the rest all unfolds, and you will wake up. You wake up to the illusion that they've created and told us that it's real. And it's not really real. You know, who we really are is real. We are immortal beings. Our soul goes on forever. I mean, right now it's in this body. But, you know, that's my belief. Or this for you. But, and I think that everyone needs to just wake up to who they are, to that internal being that they are inside. As opposed to everyone's looking for something outside, you know, if I have more money, if I have the right house, I have the right car, the right boyfriend, the right girlfriend, the right, you know. And we have to live in this world, and it's all okay.
But we'll not find the answer.
You will not find the answer to any of that. It's by looking within yourself.
But
and being authentic
But that's
with yourself.
It's a permanent exercise that you say.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot have it in epiphany. You need to work it every day.
It's a practice.
It's a practice every day. And I miss sometimes some meditation. And I say, oh, I need to wake up again to go in. But this has been an amazing podcast.
Yes.
And I'm really, and Anna for sure, we are really thankful for your availability.
Yes.
We know this is not your stuff. You are not into this, but this need to register these unique beings that live in Bali, and you are one of them. It's very important for everybody to understand. And this, we will be out of this body, but the YouTube it keeps going, and this story is going to be forever until they finish internet or whatever. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Lisa, Anna, Steve, Anna,